Hi you guys, welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today we're going to be kind of doing a quick and dirty rundown review of Big Twist Living, which is their 100% anti-pilling acrylic. So these solids come in 100 yards, 3.85 ounces, 182 meters, 110 grams, and we have an unusual situation where the stats for the variegated are the same. This is a size 4 yarn. Recommended hook is a 5mm. Recommended needle is a 5mm. So I am comparing to this to what I believe is kind of the gold standard of anti-pilling yarn, and that would be the Premier anti-pilling everyday worsted weight yarn. This one, 180 yards, 3.5 ounces, 165 meters, 100 grams per skein, size 4, 5.5mm hook, 5mm knitting needle. So I have many years experience in using the Premier anti-pilling. I have projects that are multiple years old that have held up through multiple washes, being frogged multiple times. So I know exactly how that yarn behaves. And to me, it's a fantastic acrylic yarn, holds up incredibly well. And I want to, in this review, kind of quickly talk about the working experience. I did knit swatches and crochet swatches with this yarn, but I also made a small granny swatch. So I am going to do this with two other companies, plus the Premier, so 4 total that I know of right now. We will do Premier Anti-Pilling, the Big Twist Living, the Mary Maxim Anti-Pilling line, and the Lion Brand Anti-Pilling line. If you have an anti-pilling yarn you would like me to add, please leave a comment down below or reach out on Instagram, the Facebook group, or email. And I'd be happy to add this to the combination here, but we're going to do down and dirty quickie reviews of how it is working with these yarns, and then I'm going to come back and do a comparative of all 4, including washing swatches. So first off, this is my crochet washing swatch for the Big Twist Living. The 3 colors that I have here, we have New Lavender. We have, this is like Surprise or Celebration or something. Confidence. And the blue one is Twilight Blue. So I just picked some nice looking colors that would go along with some of the other projects that I had going on. So that is why we picked those colors. It wasn't, those in particular. So as I said, we have a 3-round granny square. That's our washing swatch. First off, I did 3 squares into my miter square scrap GAN. And I'm going to be honest, while knitting this, I didn't have any issues with splitting. Neither did I with the crochet, for that fact. But I did notice when I was doing the decreasing on the miter squares, the colorways kind of behaved a little bit differently. Each one has a slightly different feel. Twilight Blue feels a little bit thicker than Lavender and Confidence. The color situation with Confidence, you've got all these different colors in here, and I only had 2 appear in the square. Not a big deal. It's not. I think if I had done a hat or something, we would have had more flashes of like the yellow and stuff popping up. But for this purpose, we only ended up with a little bit of the blue, but this is definitely thinner knitted than the lavender, and the lavender is definitely thinner than the blue, and you can kind of see just like plumpness, how that feels and looks. Just a little bit flush, a little bit thicker. This one squishes down a lot more. It's definitely, when you hold it open, you can see kind of the difference there. And then with the lavender, it's definitely in the middle. So we have Huge difference in the thickness, not overly consistent here in how thick these feel from an initial test while knitting. And it was really apparent when I was doing the decreases how differently these felt, because I had done the blue first and then Confidence next. And it just felt like a completely different yarn compared to what I had just worked with these. As far as splitting, like I said, we didn't have any splitting or anything like that. These were, you know, tactily very beautiful to work with. They have good stitch definition. Let me see my bad weaving in ends there. One day I will master tidy ends, but today is not that day. But you can see, I mean, we have, you know, beautiful stitch definition. Everything looks great. No raggedy loops or anything. And everything with the, I used a size 8 Chalgu red lace needle. That is my standard needle in the size recommended for this project. Yeah, that's size 8. And hard to see there on screen. But overall, the knitting experience was very, very nice. Very easy glide on the needle. Nothing unexpected. This is another Okotex yarn. So my experience as the standard has moved to Okotex, even yarns that used to be very coarse have kind of smoothed out significantly as the technology has changed over the last couple of years. And again, I credit that to Premier Anti-Pilling. Once they launched that line, the other yarn companies had to come up with yarns that had that soft texture, the soft feel, and actually held up very well to everyday wear, tear, you know, children's play, things like that. And this is another example of, you know, trying to match what has already been done. Like I said, it is, for me, I consider that to be the gold standard yarn. But if you've got a Michaels nearby, and especially if they're running a sale, I will put the price here on the screen that I paid. I am in South Carolina, so I'm in the US. So this is the USD that I paid locally for this. I did a store pickup for mine, but you know, if it's, especially if it's on sale or something, you know, grab it on a good deal. I see no reason why you would not want to knit with this yarn. It is pleasant enough for a anti-pilling acrylic. Now, how is it going to hold up with the wash test? We will see at the end when we do the comparative review using our granny squares. Now, crocheting these, I did 3 corner to corner squares in my new method where I am doing the first round. So I can use a join as you go to do the blankets from now on. But you can see, again, we have good stitch definition. We have, you know, a reliable, consistent texture per square. We don't have any, you know, like thin spots, thick spots, slubs, things like that popping up in this yarn. We have a very nice, consistent patterning throughout here. But again, you know, you can tell, I mean, these are unblocked, but you can see kind of the super drapiness of the Confidence yarn, which we did manage to pull up some of the yellow as we crocheted it, versus a little bit stiffer, fuller feeling, not stiff, but just kind of fuller and thicker, squishier fabric, not quite as drapey as what we have with the Confidence. So even in the crochet, using a double crochet, it was definitely apparent that these two are different thicknesses. But when you compare in the crochet, the blue to the lavender, it's not nearly as noticeable of a difference. And same when you compare these two together, it doesn't feel that different. It is less noticeable in the crochet because the crochet knots kind kind of fill in some of that. So it's not like, these don't feel like necessarily three different yarns, or these two in particular from each other. They don't feel like three different yarns from each other. But there is still a little bit of a noticeable difference with the drape. And I did think that was interesting because in my experience, frequently the variegateds tend to be either extremely thin or extremely thick compared to their solid counterparts, but most companies keep their solids fairly consistent. The difference between these two is more than what we normally see in my 20 years experience knitting and crocheting acrylic yarn. Lighter yarns do tend to be a little bit thinner feeling. Darker yarns do sometimes tend to be a little bit thicker feeling. I'm not quite sure at the molecular level what causes that with acrylic yarn. It's definitely not been over dyed. There's no casting or anything like that on these. So it's more than what I would expect to feel between these two. A little bit more, but not, oh my God, difference between these two, especially crocheted. Now, knitted, the difference between these two is far more noticeable, especially, like I said, in doing the decreasing. It left the decreases feeling just a touch bit looser the lighter the yarn felt compared to the blue one. Having done the blue first and then Confidence in the miter square made a huge difference in how I perceived the difference in these yarn weights. If I had gone from Confidence to lavender to blue, or blue to lavender to Confidence, I probably wouldn't have noticed that quite as dramatically as I did because of the order that I worked them in. So overall, just from my experience working with it, no splitting, no, major, noticeable defects. I did use about 50% of each skein. So that's 1.5 skeins, 3 different skeins. No major defects where we have, like thin spots, thick spots, tons of knots. I didn't have an issue with that. I think there was 1 knot in the 1.5 skeins that I used. So I would say that's a huge success, especially recently with some of the quality control that we have noticed. But texture, feeling the hooks, feeling the needles. I did use the Clover Amour for the crochet sample. We glided perfectly, no squeaking, no extra effort, anything like that. With the Chow Goo, once again, we slipped naturally. It was very comfortable on the needle. I didn't have any of that dusty feeling you sometimes get, or any of that like plastic dragging feeling on either the hook or the needle for this. So I'm going to say first pass, I'm going to give this an 8.25 out of 10. I will do a final breakdown metric once we have our washing swatches done and I've put those through a couple of, washer dryer cycles and we have a better idea of how they hold up. But out of the gate, pleasurable to work with. The big knockdown for this one is the difference in the sizes being so dramatic. So if you wanted to use, say, like a variegated and 2 of the solids to kind of coordinate, you could end up with some issues if you were trying to do something where size was of importance for your project, or meeting a very specific gauge. So with this one, I would say definitely gauge swatch this before you get too far working with any combination of the colors. Like I said, there is a noticeable difference between the purple and the blue as well. It's not just the variegated to the dark blue jump. So I think an 8.25 is pretty reasonable for this. It's not, horrifically overpriced. And many people can find this locally, so you don't have to wait to have this shipped to you. So I think that's a huge advantage also that we have to consider where we are, with the loss of so many yarn stores in the last couple of years and so many craft stores in the last couple of years. Finding yarn like this that are just kind of your mainstay, easy to access, easy to use yarns is becoming more difficult. So yeah, that is where we are going to rest with the big twist living. And then for my French Canadian, the Vivre line. I did think it was funny that they have the bilingual on 2, and then the blue is only in the English. So I did think that was funny. Definitely planning on having this released in Canada as well as the US. So my Canadian friends, if you've seen this in your store, let us know down below if you've seen this locally at your Michael's. And let me know if you've worked with this. What did you think about it? What was your experience? Did you have a similar experience? Did you have a dissimilar experience? Was it positive? Was it negative? Did you crochet it? Did you knit it? I want to know, because I find this very interesting. These are yarns that I use regularly for lots of different projects. So I think it's always good for us to stay up to date and refreshed on what is out, what is coming out, and what to expect. What are these yarns, good for at the end of the day? Are these going to be like the Premier Anti-Pilling, where they're great for, anything baby, anything adult, anything home decor? Or is this going to be something where, it's good for a 2-year project? So a baby thing, great. An Afghan for your living room that's going to, get beaten up by cats and dogs and kids, probably not your best investment. Let me know. That's, I think, very important. So let us know your experiences as well working with the Big Twist Living. And I look forward to seeing you guys real soon. I hope you're having a wonderful, fantastic day. As always, I love you guys. Bye.